Hello, welcome to Digital Learning. My name is Connie Kolosey and I am the Director of Media Text and Digital Learning. And on our episode today we have Beth Anderson and Dr. Jackie Hurley, and they are the secondary reading supervisors, I should say content specialists for Pinellas County Schools. And so I'm going to give you a chance to tell me a little bit about what you do and what your field of work is as by way of introduction. Beth?
So I work with the middle schools. We have 25 middle schools in the district, and what I focus on mostly is the intervention reading classes, where the kids have been found to be non-proficient, so they are scheduled into an intensive reading course, which is different from English language arts in that we focus on the students' deficiencies and work them up to grade level. So I work with the teachers, with their professional development, and those courses that have the intensive reading students.
At middle school?
At middle school, yes.
And Jackie?
And I am Beth's high school counterpart, working with the 9-12 students. We focus on increasing their reading comprehension and preparing them for graduation.
So tell us a little bit about how students get placed in the intensive reading classes.
So same as in middle school, if they're found to be reading under grade level on the FSA level 1 or level 2, we support them with an extra reading class.
So for people that may not be aware, FSA?
Yes, that's the Florida Standards Assessment. They take an end-of-year assessment that assesses their overall grade level proficiency on English language arts standards that are set by the state.
So a little bit of difference between middle school and high school. In middle school, if you're not proficient, you move forward.
Yes.
And if you're in high school and you're not proficient, at some point you don't move forward. Let's talk about that graduation requirement.
Correct. So in 10th grade, that is the test that the students need to pass for graduation purposes. So once they, if they pass that, they've met that graduation requirement. If they don't, we continue remediating and giving them an additional class, and then they can also earn a concordant score through taking the ACT or the SAT.
So if they don't pass the FSA the first time in 10th grade, a little bit more on that?
If they don't pass in 10th grade, then in 11th grade, they get put into another class.
And they retake the test?
They do retake the test. They actually get to take the test twice a year in 11th grade and twice in 12th grade if needed. And they also have opportunities to take alternative assessments like the ACT or the SAT.
Okay. What do we find when the kids are older in terms of their ability to pass the ACT or the SAT as opposed to the FSA?
Well, that's one of the things that we're really focusing on in high school reading, is to find where the students' strengths are. Maybe the FSA just isn't the test for them. The ACT is it's set up differently, and the SAT is set up differently than the ACT. So we've tried to find where the students' strengths are and help prepare them for all tests, because the skills they need, traverse all three, but then really helping them find the avenue that's going to work for them.
So again, not all students are in an intensive reading class.
That is correct. Only if they're found to be deficient, which is projected by the FSA, that maybe they need more support with phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, vocabulary. We're finding that vocabulary is a big issue because it is grade level text. So if the students aren't reading at a level where they can understand the vocabulary in grade level text, then we will remediate that in intensive reading as well.
So I think there's always a struggle between what do we give the kids to read. And so let me hear a little bit about your philosophy. I'll let you take turns on do we have them reading at the level that they're reading, or do we have them attempting to read above the level they're reading?
We do both, actually. When they're reading independently, we want them to be able to not struggle as much. So we would prefer that they choose something or be assigned something that was more at their instructional level, where they can practice and get those skills up for fluency. When they are with a teacher, and in intensive reading we have small group work with teacher, they work with grade level text, because then the teacher can support them, give them scaffolds, have them reread, and support them with the vocabulary maybe that they don't know, or point them to a place in the text where the author is trying to say something that maybe isn't obvious. And so the teacher with support can help them read grade level text. So that we like to do both.
So back in the day, we started with the FCAT, and now we've moved on now to the FSA. Jackie, a little bit of difference between those two assessments and what that's meant for your work.
Well, the FCAT was completely, at some point it turned into a completely multiple choice test. There were some short responses, but now there's an essay involved, there are speaking and listening components, so it encompasses a broader range of skills that the students need.
And as I recall, to the FCAT, they would read a single passage.
Yes,
and
much
answer
different.
some questions. And how is that different, Beth?
So on the FSA, they're given multiple texts. So they're usually topically or thematically related in some way. And then the questions are offered up on both texts. So they may have a question about a single text, but they will always have a question that makes the students synthesize those texts together.
So, you know, I think we often ask ourselves this question, what in the heck were they thinking? But why would they begin to ask students to do this kind of thing in middle school, right?
Yes, college and career readiness is the ability to read from multiple perspectives, multiple genres, and really get a whole understanding of the theme, the topic, whatever it is students are studying in the real world, and be able to synthesize those together.
So you all don't teach writing per se. Writing is taught in their language arts class, but where does writing come into a reading class?
We hope that teachers are including daily writing activities into their instruction.
So these are kids that probably slip behind early on. Is that fair to say?
It is.
And so they've been probably struggling with reading for a while.
Yes. Teachers also create a safe place for students, that they're allowed to not be perfect in these courses, and really it's understood that they're not. And it's understood that it is a place where everyone is learning and everybody is growing. So when students are motivated with the fact that it's a safe place to make mistakes, making mistakes is expected, and you learn from those mistakes, it is much more motivating when everybody's in it together. It's growth together.
Growth.
And and one of the things that we do in high school is we really incorporate the content areas. So if I'm a 10th grader and I'm in world history, I may be seeing a lot of world history content in my reading class. So when I have that increased exposure in my reading class, I have that extra processing time. I can go back to my world history class. I may get a few more questions right on a quiz. I may be able to participate more in a class discussion or a class activity, or I may be even just my partner work. I may feel more confident, and that helps increase their motivation as well.
So I think there's been a struggle for content teachers, science teachers, social studies teachers in particular probably, who so much of their content is delivered through text.
Yes.
And when they receive these students that are behind in reading, and the temptation is to not ask them to read because it's a frustration point in their class.
Right.
And so giving PowerPoints and delivering the information. And so how are you supporting those teachers with allowing students to struggle with their content text? What are some things we're doing?
That's a very good question, because every teacher is a reading teacher. We've noticed that, and content teachers shy away from that because they think that means that they have to help them sound out words, they have to start diagnosing what the deficiency is, and that's not really the case. The biggest thing in content is vocabulary, because they have the words that are content specific. Science words and social studies words look very different from everyday language. So those are the main places of concentration. But teachers, as they pre-read the text, if they can already determine where that student is going to trip and there's going to be a hiccup right there, they can pre-teach some of that and, as you said, offer activity or something that gets their mind ready to learn that. And so building that background knowledge first is what really the content teachers, and scaffolding them, having them read maybe a variety of text on the same thing, which is super helpful as well.
And in high school, we have all of the content area pacing guides included in our pacing guide. So, and we really encourage cross-content collaboration. So the reading teachers really should be planning with the content area teachers, and they can make decisions where the content from some biology or world history or US history can be brought in, maybe a little lagging a little, or it could even be a precursor to things. So it depends on the team that's working together and what their decisions are. But it's just, again, that repeated exposure to those ideas and those texts.
You mentioned vocabulary. I think back in the day, most of us remember passing out the big dictionaries with a list of words. Do we still do that?
Not so much. I mean, if there is a word that students like to look it up on their phone, actually they can just ask their phone what the word means, and that's a good life skill, you know, to be able to have immediate access to a definition that they don't know. So sure, that's available to them. But looking up words in a dictionary isn't helpful. We know that it takes 20 plus exposures to a word for them to own it. They have to use it, they have to see it, they have to hear it. So we know that, yes, looking up a word for an immediate definition, but they won't remember that long term. They need repeated exposure to the new words.
Gone are the days of giving out the vocabulary list on Monday and testing on Friday. You know, we really want the students to be focused on output, actually using the words in context, seeing them, you know, speaking them with their peers, seeing them in the text that they're going to read.
And it doesn't really help to look up the word in the dictionary if when you get there you find a bunch more words you don't know what they mean.
Or it has multiple definitions, you know, and it depends which one you're using at that time.
All right, well, so this program is called Digital Learning, and we invited you here to talk a little bit about your digital options. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to get into some of the digital options that we have for supporting kids with reading. So stay tuned, we'll be back in a moment.